Hello, today I am reading about the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and it was written by the new movement in solidarity with the Mexican Revolution. And remember, this is from the 1980s. The Immigration and Naturalization Service is the United States government's law enforcement arm in the area of migration, immigration, and citizenship. Its official mandate is to carry out U.S. policy relating to entry, exit, and naturalization of prospective citizens. INS history, origin, and practice show this policy to be keep the third world and other undesirable people out of the U.S. unless profit can be made from their labor. The first agency dealing with immigration under the Department of Labor was the Bureau of Immigration, formed a few years after the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Today, the INS, so renamed in 1933, is a small but rapidly growing quasi-military structure. It forms a part of the Department of Justice. The INS commissioner is appointed by the president. The command structure consists of a central headquarters in Washington, D.C. There are 4 regional divisions: the eastern in Burlington, Vermont, the southern in Dallas, Texas, the northern in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the western in San Pedro, California. 38 district offices span the United States. The 4 more prominent and strongest departments nationally are the Intelligence Unit, the Investigations Unit, and the Detention and Deportations Unit, to which is connected the Border Patrol. These departments are stronger by far than those that assist prospective citizens to achieve naturalization, deal with entry and exit visas and permits, regulate quotas from each country, supervise immigration according to needed skills, or assist in granting asylum to political refugees. Financial appropriations that allocate large sums to beefing up the Border Patrol, to its manhunt operations, and to militarizing the border are the ones passed most readily by Congress. For example, the largest part of the entire Justice Department's proposed budget for 1985 is a request for 1,000 new Border Patrol officers at a first-year cost of $100 to $150 million. This is partly why naturalization or asylum applications get backlogged for years, while over 1 million undocumented workers are arrested, processed, detained, and deported each year. The investigations and intelligence units conduct investigations of domestic immigration fraud. Beyond that, in a completely political way, they develop information on subversive criminals and terrorists, a function of domestic spying supposedly contrary to law and constitution. This politically motivated spying is frequently carried out in cooperation with the police, the FBI, or other law enforcement agencies with whom their jurisdiction overlaps. The now well-known COINTELPRO program to disrupt and destroy political organizations opposed to U.S. policy and control is another example of a deliberate, politically motivated program of attack by a federal agency posing as a law-abiding service. By the end of fiscal year 1976, the INS Investigations Division had compiled a list of 221,335 names of foreign nationals allegedly subversive or terrorist, and has made the information available to other agencies on request. Although a few undocumented workers dare turn to public services like welfare or hospitals, the Social Security Administration has recently been persuaded to open its files to INS investigations, cross-searches in an attempt to locate undocumented workers or other undesirables. Investigations has also cooperated with Israeli intelligence, supposedly to locate Nazi war criminals. But recent evidence shows that the U.S. government has actually helped cover up for known war criminals like Klaus Barbie. This guy was a Nazi that the U.S. government protected. He was wanted by France. And so you can read this. You can pause and read the whole thing if you want to. So other speculation is that Israel and the U.S. INS work together to track down and neutralize Palestinian or Arab activists in this country who oppose Israeli occupation of Palestine and Lebanon and U.S. support for it. Finally, the investigations unit carries out manhunts, sweeps, and surveillance called area control in major metropolitan areas to arrest or drive out undocumented workers and keep others terrorized. Campaigns like Operation Jobs are reminiscent of zone control and other population control elimination tactics practiced by U.S. forces in Vietnam. The Detention and Deportation Division is responsible for holding and expelling deportable aliens to their home countries or across the Mexican border. Mexicans now make up 90% of the people held in detention centers. The INS is readying large-scale detention camps in certain areas. The Border Patrol is the military arm of the INS, successor to the Rangers, Mounted Guard, and the U.S. Army. The post-World War I recession with its labor surplus, the continuing struggle of the Mexican Revolution with its message of the possibility of real liberating change, and the threat of the spread of revolution to Mexicans in the North, occasioned the creation of the Border Patrol in 1924. The new paramilitary force would enforce the border, regulate migration, and maintain a strict division of the Mexican nation. The Border Patrol has grown from a small guard to now a technologically advanced armed force of 2,400 troops, most located on the imposed border with Mexico. The Border Patrol training base is located outside of Brunswick, Georgia at the Glencoe Naval Air Station. Recruitment is being done throughout the U.S. and in the armed forces for more agents, especially in the Marine Corps. The white supremacist underpinning of the INS work is clear in its collaboration with the KKK. In 1928, Klan cooperation in San Antonio, Texas, was better than undependable police for a raid in Dallas, wrote Cliff Perkins in Border Patrol. More recently, the Klan has accompanied Border Patrol agents in Mexican border skirmishes, has operated a motorized Klan border watch in parts of California and Texas, and has staged heavily armed rallies along the border. The Border Patrol cooperates with other law enforcement agencies such as the INS Intelligence Unit. It works with the FBI in rooting out information on subversives or terrorists when the need arises. Border Patrol troops are used in repressing the political actions of third world people. In 1973, the Border Patrol helped federal police during the occupation of Wounded Knee. The Border Patrol and Investigation Unit also work together in deportation procedures. INS brutality and corruption. There have been a variety of techniques used to repress Mexican and other border-crossing people, both past and present. Until 1958, the Border Patrol used dog and horse tracking, reminiscent of methods used on African slaves. Also, the assistance of vigilante groups was frequently relied upon in arresting and terrorizing Mexicans and others. Today, troops use psychological and physical terror to intimidate Mexicans into admitting that they are from the South in a process known to agents as breaking the alien. This method involves isolating the migrant, threatening his or her family, verbal harassment, and physical beatings. Agents are expected to arrest and deport a satisfactory number of undocumented workers regularly. Such tactics serve to help meet the body count, a phrase that recalls the slaughter of the Vietnamese by U.S. forces in Southeast Asia. Intimidation of the undocumented is intended to serve as a lesson to others. So is violence, which pervades the operation of the Border Patrol. In 1979, 2 Mexican youths were pistol whipped and one eventually killed, even though they were actually handcuffed by Border Patrol agents. The agents were acquitted. Many reports of beatings, bribery, drug smuggling, and sexual abuse, including rape and killings of undocumented workers, have been documented. In Houston, one Mexican woman who was apprehended by the INS accused an INS officer of forcing her to have sexual relations with her in order to remain in Texas for 1 month. In Laredo, Texas, another woman openly charged an INS officer with rape. After the case received a lot of publicity, the woman disappeared and no action was taken against the officer. An INS criminal investigator in Los Angeles was indicted for accepting more than $7,000 in bribes between March 1974 and November 1977. The officer had reportedly accepted kickbacks for releasing undocumented workers caught by both the INS and local authorities. Witnesses in a San Antonio federal court hearing testified that a Border Patrol agent shot an undocumented worker in the leg and knee, hit him on the head with the butt of his pistol, and dunked him several times in the Rio Grande. The hearing ended when the undocumented was found guilty of assaulting the officer. There have also been charges that INS officials have established prostitution rings, as well as charges of collusion between Border Patrol and INS agents and employers trying to break strikes. A federal grand jury in Miami accused an immigration inspector of selling tourist visas to Latina prostitutes so they could work in the United States. Under the arrangement, each woman was issued a form allowing her to remain in the U.S. with tourist status for 2 weeks. The women, according to the indictment, were then required to pay $3,000 for 6-month visas. While some INS officials have been indicted on such charges, few have been convicted. Sometimes while Mexican parents have been detained in prison, their children have been shipped alone on buses back to the South. Other times, children have been imprisoned, farmed out to adoption agencies, or simply abandoned in the workplace. Frequently, due process of law is ignored or trampled on by INS officials. INS officers are given the jurisdiction to interrogate without warrant any person thought to be here without papers and do not have to have any probable cause other than suspicion. This is in violation of the Fourth Amendment, which supposedly guarantees the right of people to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. In certain circumstances, the INS officers can make arrests without warrants. During raids, INS investigators stop and question only people of color, mostly Latino and Black people. For example, the INS began raiding New York City subways, accosting only people of color. The INS never raids white communities or protected businesses either. Instead, they target poor third world neighborhoods. When one of the authors lived in Texas, he was present during the raids, but was ignored as officers demanded papers of every brown-skinned person in the room. Frequently, contrary to federal regulations, all the exits of a factory or restaurant will be locked as a raid begins, so that no escape would be possible even if a fire broke out. Once arrested, the INS prefers that migrants and immigrants sign voluntary departure forms. By doing so, a person forfeits the right to deportation hearing and is deprived of certain supposedly constitutional rights. The right to counsel, the right to bail, the right against self-incrimination, and the right to an impartial hearing. The Supreme Court ruled that the INS does not have to inform people suspected of being undocumented workers of all their constitutional rights when they are arrested, except for their right to an attorney. Often, INS agents brutalize undocumented workers who insist they are United States citizens or who refuse to sign the voluntary departure forms, or detain them until they agree to sign. Sometimes when employers are charged with hiring undocumented workers, these workers are held in jail as evidence until the case comes to court, as much as a year later. In its methods of deportation, the INS aims to prevent the return of the deported worker. In past years with the Mexicans, INS agents have shipped them to the South, far from their home regions, or to oppressive farm camps in the Yucatan. Today, most Mexicans are bused or flown to Mexican border cities after signing the voluntary departure forms, alone without legal counsel or knowledge of their rights, and in the custody of a paramilitary agency. Undocumented workers and political refugees have had little choice but to sign and be deported. The Immigration and Naturalization Act prohibits local police from becoming involved in enforcing immigration laws. It states that the police may not stop an individual when merely suspect he or she is undocumented unless that person has been involved in some criminal offense. But there are a few restraints on this activity. In reality, police often stop people on the suspicion that they may be undocumented and detain them until INS arrives. That's all for this one. I'll see you on the next one, which is about racist myths.